Okay, gonna go over the practice test for Unit 12A. Here we go. First, we're gonna start off with the vertex. So the vertex, remember, the x value is the opposite of whatever's in the parentheses. So here's the opposite. And the y value is whatever's outside the parentheses. So since it's a positive 1 in parentheses, the x value is going to be a negative 1, and the y value is going to be negative 4. Which means our vertex is going to be right here. Okay. So we look at the function and we see the very front of the function, it's a positive number. So since it's positive, that means it is a happy function. The function is going to go like this, which means that it has a lowest point. So this will have a minimum. The domain of pretty much all quadratic functions that don't deal with real life situations is always going to be all real numbers. That symbol stands for all real numbers. The range, okay, first let's fill out the chart. So once you have your vertex, which is this guy, you're going to put that vertex right here in the middle. So it's going to be -1, comma, -4. Okay, this is x, this is k of x. So you're going to pick numbers that are on opposite sides of -1. So I'm going to pick -2 and -3, and 0 and 1. Okay, numbers that are right on either side of -1. Okay. So I'm going to plug in 0. So this is going to be 2 times 0 plus 1 squared minus 4, which comes out to 2 times 1 squared minus 4. And because you have to do exponents next, it's parentheses, then exponents. It's 2 times 1 minus 4, which comes out to a -2. So 0, -2 is a coordinate. And since we plotted our vertex right here in the middle, our vertex is the line of symmetry, or the axis of symmetry. So that means when you plug in -2, you'll get -2 as well. And next, I'm going to come over here to the right again, and I'm going to plug in a +1. So 2 times 1 plus 1 squared minus 4 comes out to 2 times 2 squared minus 4, which is 2 times 4 minus 4, which comes out to 4. +4. So we plot our points, 0, -2, -2, -2, 1, comma, 4, and this guy. And I'm going to do my best to draw this with a mouse. It's a quadratic function that looks something like this. So now that we're talking about range, notice that the range is everything that's above the minimum value. This is the minimum value, k of x equals -4. So since everything is above -4, our range is y is greater than -4, greater than or equal to. Okay, the line of symmetry, the vertex, is where our graph kind of gets cut in half, like this. Okay, it gets cut into 2 even halves. That line is called the line of symmetry, and you can get that from x equals -1. You get the line of symmetry from the x coordinate of your vertex. Okay. So next question is 328 a solution. Plug it in. So we get 2 times 3 plus 1 squared minus 4, which is 2 times 4 squared minus 4, which is 2 times 16 minus 4, which comes out to 28. So the answer to this would be yes. It is a solution. Okay. So did the 2 make this shape more narrow or wide? This looks like a pretty narrow parabola. I'd say this is pretty narrow. So it would make it more narrow. Remember, the number that's in front, we call this our A value. If A, the absolute value of A, is greater than 1, that means it becomes more narrow. If the absolute value of A is less than 1, meaning it's a fraction, a decimal that's less than 1, etc., then that means you're dealing with a more wide function. Okay. So it's talking about 1 and 4 changing the location of the vertex. Okay. All you would say is the x value of the vertex is opposite the number in parentheses. The y value is equal to the number outside the parentheses. That's all you got to say. Okay. So for the translation rule that's here at the bottom, all you got to do is take your vertex. Our vertex is -1, -4. Okay. And it's saying we took our point and we shifted it to the left 1. We subtracted 1 from x, and we shifted it down 4. Okay. So when it asks for 2 other points that are solutions, you can just pick the 2 from your t-chart. So 0, -2 works, and 1, 4 works. Okay. So still on this function, they want to say when is it increasing and decreasing. So if you look at the left side of the function, you see that this graph is going downwards. Okay. And it keeps going down all the way until it hits this point, which is the vertex. So when you're looking at x values that are to the left of -1, they are decreasing when x is less than -1. So k of x is decreasing when x is less than -1. On the other hand, if you look at the right side of our function, you see these arrows are going up, they're making their way back up. So that means that it is increasing when x is greater than -1. Because this is -1, that's 0, 1, 2, 3. If you pick any number that's greater than -1, your function will be going upwards. Okay. And that's it for number 1. Okay. Let's look at number 2. Look at 2 and 3 on the same page. Okay, so for number 2, factor. So this is what's in standard form. Since it's in standard form, we can graph this, or we can factor this thing. So a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, c is equal to -8. factor it, and we get -8 on top, 2 on the bottom, and that means our numbers are going to be a -2 and a +4. Because -2 times 4 gives us -8. 4 minus 2 gives us a +2. So we got x minus 2 is equal to 0, and x plus 4 equals 0. So when you add 2 to both sides, we get x equals 2. That's one of our x-intercepts. When you subtract 4 from both sides, you get x equals -4. So that's our second x-intercept. So since the x-intercepts are at 2, 0, which is right here, and -4, 0, which is over here, we know that if we go halfway between these intercepts, we're going to find our axis. So we do 2 plus -4 divided by 2 gives us an answer of -1. And that means our axis of symmetry is going to be that line, which is at -1. Okay. So for the vertex, we're going to take this number and plug it in. So this is -1 squared plus 2 times -1 minus 8. That's 1 minus 2 minus 8 for an answer of -9. So our vertex is at -1 comma -9. If I wanted to plot that, 1, 2, 3, it would be way down here. This would be where my vertex is. And my graph would look something like this. Straighten that out a little bit. It shouldn't curve back, but I mean, you get the general idea of what it should do. There we go. That's a little bit better. So it says y is increasing when x. So let's look at our function. Our function keeps going down all the way until it hits the vertex. Once it hits the vertex, it starts going up. So that means y is increasing when x is greater than -1. Okay. The x value of our vertex is always going to be where it changes from a negative to positive or positive to a negative. Okay. Number 3, choose a transformation. Okay. So we're going to look at this function, and we see that g of x has a vertex of +3 and a +1. So that means we went +3 in the x direction, and we went +1, in the y direction. So +3 in the x direction, +1 in the y direction. Our answer is C. Okay, for number 4, it's really important to notice that these are two functions, two different functions. This is f of x, and this is g of x. G of x, this table, is not at all related to this graph. Not related. So that means we're comparing the two. I'm trying to figure out why this isn't showing up. I think this is supposed to be an f of x. And this is supposed to be a g of x. And this is f of x and g of x. That's supposed to be an x, that's supposed to be an x. Both x-intercepts of g of x. Okay, I'm just doing my best from memory. The line of symmetry of f of x. Okay, so the minimum value of f of x. The minimum value is right here, and that's at -1. The smallest value, remember minimum means smallest, of g of x is right here at -25. So -1 is greater than -25, so that means the minimum value of f of x is greater. Let's look at the x value of the minimum. The x value of the minimum is at -4. The x value of the minimum at g is a +1. So the x value of f of x at the minimum is less than the x value of g of x at its minimum. So that is also true. Okay. X-intercepts. Remember, x-intercepts is where g of x is equal to 0, or where your function is equal to 0. It could be f of x, k of x, j of x, whatever. Why? But it's really important that you know that your x-intercept is where the function equals 0. So one of the x-intercepts is at x equals -4. The other x-intercept is at x equals 6. So they are not both greater than 0, which means that this is false. Okay. And I think this is x equals 1. But if you take a look, the axis of symmetry happens at this line, which always takes place at the vertex. So since it's at x equals -4 where it should be, this is false. Oi. Okay, number 5. Okay, we're going to evaluate these things. Let's plug them in. So this is 2 times 0 squared. 0 squared is 0, and 2 times 0 is just 0. 2 times 1 squared, that's just 2 times 1, which is 2. 2 times 2 squared is equal to 2 times 4, which is 8. And 2 times 3 squared is equal to 2 times 9, which comes out to 18. If we look at this function, this is 3 to the 0 power. Anything to the 0 power is 1. This is 3 to the 1 power, and anything to the power of 1 is itself. 3 to the second is equal to 9. And 3 to the third power equals 27. Okay. So average rate of change. I say rate of change, you say slope. And slope is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we're looking at f of x. So we're looking at these two functions, or these two values here. So I'm going to say this would be my x2, y2. I'll call this one my x1, y1. So 18 minus 2 over 3 minus 1 is 16 over 2 for a rate of change of 8. I'm going to do the same thing for the other problem, except this time this is my x1, y1, or let's change that around. I can make this x2, y2, this one x1, y1. And it doesn't matter which order you do it in. You could do it in any order and get the same answer. So 27 minus 3 over 3 minus 1, that's 24 over 2, which equals 12. And so what does this mean in relationship to the graphs? What it means is g of x gets bigger a lot faster than f of x. Or in other words, you could say that g of x is steeper than f of x, and it increases much faster. Okay, sorry, I had to tell my dog to be quiet. Okay, number 6. Okay, is the ordered pair solution? What you want to do is plug in the x value, see if you get the y value. So negative 3 times 1 squared plus 8, that's equal to negative 3 plus 8, which comes out to 5. So I plugged in 1, I got 5 back. This one would be a yes. Plug in negative 1. Negative 3 times negative 1 squared plus 8. That's negative 3 times positive 1 plus 8, which is negative 3 plus 8, which comes out to negative 5. No, sorry, positive 5. And positive 5 is not the same as 11, so this is a no. Okay, find the zeros. So for number 7, we add 27 to both sides. So we get 3x squared equals 27. I'm going to divide both sides by 3. I get x squared equals 9. And I square root both sides, and I get x equals positive 3 or negative 3. Another way you could have done this was factor out the 3 from the beginning, and you get x squared minus 9 equals 0. And when you factor this, you get 3 times x plus 3 times x minus 3. And you say x plus 3 equals 0, and x minus 3 equals 0, which gives you these two answers. For number 8, we're going to subtract 8 from both sides. So I got negative 2 times x minus 3 squared equals negative 8. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. And that gives me x minus 3 squared equals 4. Square root both sides. I get x minus 3 equals a positive 2. And I get x minus 3 equals a negative 2. The reason why you get two answers from a square root is 2 times 2 gives you 4, and negative 2 times negative 2 gives you 4. So you should always get two answers with square roots. Add 3 to both sides, you get x equals 5. Add 3 to both sides, x equals 1. So there are your two answers for question 8. Okay, for number 9, I'm going to start off by adding 16 to both sides. So I get x plus 1 squared equals positive 16. Square root both sides. So x plus 1 equals positive 4. And x plus 1 equals negative 4. Because when you take square roots, you get a positive and a negative answer. So this one will come out to x equals 3. Subtract 1 from both sides, and we get x equals negative 5. So 3 comma negative 5 are our answers to that. For 10, I'm just going to use extreme x factor. So negative 24 goes on top, negative 5 on bottom. That looks like a negative 8 and a positive 3. So I get x minus 8 and x plus 3. That means either x minus 8 equals 0 or x plus 3 equals 0. So when you add 8 to both sides, you get x equals 8. And subtracting 3 gives you x equals negative 3. Okay, so this is the graph of our rocket. And it says the maximum height of the rocket is at 36 feet. So at 36 feet, this looks like it's about at 36. So this would be a true statement. It says the maximum height is 2 feet, but this would be 2 feet here, and the graph is way above it. So that would be false. Okay. It said it took 2 seconds for the rocket to hit the ground. So starting at 0, the graph is up there, and it goes all the way to 2 seconds. And as soon as it gets to 2 seconds, that's where its height equals 0, meaning it is on the ground. That is true. The rocket started at an initial height of 30 feet. That's almost true. It really started at about 32. So this is a false statement. And the rocket was increasing in height between 0 and 0.5. Okay. So if we take a look at this graph, at x equals 0, which is right here. So here's x equals 0. And at x equals 0.5, if you look at the arc, you should see that the arc is getting bigger. It's increasing. It's going like that. So that means that it was increasing between those time intervals. Okay. Number 12. I don't know what numbers are in those boxes, but you just have to factor it. So A is equal to 2, B is equal to 7, C equals negative 15. So on top, A times C is negative 30, B is 7, and that comes out to negative 3, positive 10. And we'll reverse box method this. So first term goes in the first box, last term goes in the last box. Numbers from here go into the box, so that's positive 10, negative 3x. So the GCF of 2 and negative 3. That comes out to just x, 1x. The GCF of 10x and negative 15, that comes out to a positive 5. The GCF of 2x squared and 10x, that comes out to 2x. And the GCF of negative 3 and negative 15 comes out to negative 3. So your answer for this is 2x minus 3 positive 1x plus 5. Okay. Same thing for part B. A is equal to 5, B is equal to negative 51, C is equal to 10. Extreme X factor. Air conditioning on top, B is in the basement. So this becomes a positive 50 and a negative 51. So that is a negative 50 and a negative 1 for our spots. Box this baby out. First term is going to be 5x squared. Last term is 10. And in the middle, we got negative 50 and negative 1. Both x's, because it comes from the x factor. Okay. GCF of 5x squared and negative 50x would be 5x. GCF of negative 1 and 10, that's going to be a 1. GCF of 5x squared and x, that's just going to be an x. GCF of negative 50 and 10 would be a 10. Now here's the deal. Since these two boxes here are both negative, that means both of these numbers must be negative. So your answer is 5x minus 1 and a 1x minus 10. Okay, email me with any questions. I'll check my email tonight at about 9 o'clock. After 9 o'clock, I will not be checking my email anymore. So, if you have questions, gotta let me know. Take care.